I never expected to see my cousin Emily again, at least, not like this. The last time we spoke was almost a decade ago, when I was struggling to make ends meet while she was flaunting her latest shopping spree. She always had a way of making me feel small, like I didn't belong in the same family. But life has a funny way of flipping the script. My name is Jake, and I'm 32 years old. 10 years ago, I was barely scraping by, working double shifts at a dingy motel while dreaming of something bigger. Meanwhile, my extended family treated me like a failure, especially Emily. She was the golden child, showered with praise for doing the bare minimum while I was mocked for every setback. My parents had passed away when I was in my early 20s, leaving me with no real safety net, while Emily's parents lavished her with expensive gifts, vacations, and anything else she desired. I had no handouts, no shortcuts, just pure grit. I saved every penny, worked ridiculous hours, and learned everything I could about the hospitality industry. Slowly but surely, I climbed my way up, taking risks when I could, investing in myself, and eventually, against all odds, I managed to buy my own small but elegant hotel. It wasn't a 5-star resort, but it was mine. I built it from the ground up, turning it into a respected venue for weddings, parties, and high-end events. Emily, of course, had no idea. As far as she knew, I had faded into irrelevance, just another distant relative she didn't need to think about. That is, until the night of her extravagant birthday party, hosted at my hotel. It was a busy evening. My staff was handling everything smoothly, and I was overseeing the final details when I noticed a familiar name on the event list. Emily. My stomach twisted. I hadn't seen her in years, and part of me wondered if she had changed. Maybe she had outgrown her entitled ways. Maybe time had softened her arrogance. Then I saw her walk through the grand entrance, and I knew nothing had changed. Emily strutted in like she owned the place, draped in designer everything, her voice carrying over the soft music as she barked orders at the staff. She barely acknowledged anyone she considered beneath her. My employees shot me nervous glances as she snapped at them for minor inconveniences. I had planned to keep a low profile, to just observe. But fate had other plans. I was standing near the bar when Emily spotted me. At first, she did a double take, her eyes narrowing in disbelief. Then, as recognition dawned, her expression shifted into something cruel. "What is he doing here?" she scoffed, loud enough for half the room to hear. One of my employees hesitated before responding. But Emily cut them off. "I don't care. Get him out. Now." The room fell silent. I felt the stares, the whispers. My pulse quickened, but I forced myself to stay calm. A security guard, clearly uncomfortable, approached me hesitantly. "Sir, she's asking." I held up a hand. "I know what she's asking." I turned back to Emily, who was watching with a smirk, waiting for me to be escorted out like some lowly intruder at her party. "Emily," I said, keeping my voice steady. "Do you even know where you are?" She rolled her eyes. "Obviously. This is the Sterling Hotel, the nicest place in town. Unlike you, I have taste." I smiled. "And do you know who owns the Sterling Hotel?" Emily scoffed again, waving a dismissive hand. "Some rich businessman, obviously. Why would I care?" I didn't have to say anything. One of my employees, standing nearby, cleared their throat and, with an almost gleeful look, said, Actually, he does." Emily froze. "What?" I pulled out my phone, tapped the screen a few times, and turned it toward her. Displayed clearly was the official hotel website, with my name listed as the owner. Her face drained of color. The smirk vanished. The room was silent, all eyes on her as realization sank in. I leaned in just slightly, lowering my voice so only she could hear. "Now, do you still want security to throw me out?" Her mouth opened and closed like a fish gasping for air, but no words came out. And that's when I knew I had her exactly where I wanted her. I let the silence stretch, savoring the moment. Emily's mouth hung open, her confidence evaporating in real time. Just minutes ago, she had been basking in the glow of her own importance, barking orders at my staff and demanding I be thrown out. Now, she looked like a deer caught in headlights. "Wait," she stammered, shaking her head as if trying to reset reality. "You're joking, right? There's no way you own this place." I chuckled, shaking my head. "I get it. Must be hard to believe that the cousin you used to mock for being a failure now owns the venue you just spent thousands to rent out." I folded my arms, tilting my head. But here we are. Emily glanced around as if hoping someone, anyone, would tell her this was some elaborate prank. The guests were whispering now, exchanging amused glances, and my staff stood by, waiting for my next move. I leaned in slightly, lowering my voice just enough for her to hear. Now, what was it you told security a minute ago? Oh, right. Throw that nobody out. I let out an exaggerated sigh. You know, Emily, I think you're right. We should remove people who don't belong here. Her eyes widened in horror. Wait, no, I turned to the security guard, who had been watching the whole scene unfold. I think she's causing a disturbance. Maybe she shouldn't be here after all. The security guard hesitated, looking between us. He knew I was the owner. He knew I wasn't serious, but Emily? She didn't. Emily's face crumbled. Jake, please, she said, her voice suddenly much softer, almost pleading. Don't do this. Not tonight. I arched an eyebrow. Why not? You were happy to throw me out in front of all these people. Didn't even hesitate. That was a mistake, she rushed to say, her voice cracking. I didn't know it was you. I feigned a thoughtful expression. Oh, I see. So, if I was just some random nobody, it would have been fine to humiliate me. I let the words sink in before shaking my head. Wow, Emily. That's a great look for you. Emily swallowed hard, her hands clenching into fists at her sides. Look, I save it, I cut in, waving a hand dismissively. You spent your whole life treating me like trash. And now that the tables have turned, suddenly you're acting all nice. I let out a mocking laugh. You must really think I'm stupid. Emily's face was bright red now. Whether from anger or embarrassment, I wasn't sure. Maybe both. She glanced at her parents, my aunt and uncle, who had been standing awkwardly nearby, unsure whether to intervene. But they knew better than to push me now. Jake, please, Emily tried again, this time in a hushed whisper. This is my birthday. Don't ruin it. I gave her a long, considering look. I'm ruining it. Kind of like how you tried to ruin mine just now? She winced. I was wrong, okay? I admit it. Just, please don't make me leave. I tapped my chin, pretending to think it over. Then I smirked. Fine. You can stay. Her shoulders sagged in relief. But, I added, my smirk widening, only if you admit, right here, in front of everyone, that you were the one who didn't belong here tonight. Emily stiffened. What? You heard me. I crossed my arms. Say it. I was wrong, and I didn't belong here tonight. Her eyes darted around the room, taking in the stares, the hushed murmurs of the guests who had witnessed the whole thing. Her pride was battling her survival instinct. I could see the war raging inside her. I leaned in just a little. Or, you know, I could just have security escort you out. Your choice. Emily swallowed hard. Her hands trembled slightly as she exhaled, then muttered under her breath, I was wrong, and I didn't belong here tonight. Louder, I said, enjoying this way too much. She clenched her jaw, then forced the words out, just loud enough for the room to hear. I was wrong, and I didn't belong here tonight. I let the words hang in the air for a moment, savoring the taste of long overdue justice. The room was dead silent, all eyes on Emily as she stood there, humiliated and furious, her face a deep shade of red. I could tell she thought this was over, that she had swallowed her pride just enough to keep her precious party intact. But she was wrong. I let out a low chuckle, shaking my head. Wow, that was actually painful to watch. I sighed dramatically. But, you know what? I changed my mind. Emily's head snapped up. What? I turned to the security guard. Get her out of my hotel. For a moment, Emily just stood there, blinking, like she hadn't actually processed what I said. Then she let out a short, nervous laugh. You're joking. I smiled. Nope. The murmurs in the room grew louder, some guests outright gasping. A few even chuckled. My aunt and uncle looked like they wanted to step in, but they knew they had no power here. Emily's eyes darted around, her panic setting in. Jake, she hissed, lowering her voice. I already apologized. You got your little moment. Just let me stay. I tilted my head. Oh, you think that was enough? You think a forced little sentence is going to erase years of you treating me like dirt? I leaned in slightly, lowering my voice. Let me make something very clear, Emily. You don't get to talk your way out of this. You wanted me gone from this party? Well, guess what? Now it's your turn. She took a shaky step back, her confidence fully shattered. Please, she whispered. Don't do this. This party is over for you. I motioned to the security guard. Escort her out. Now. The guard stepped forward, towering over her. Ma'am, I need you to come with me. Emily looked around, desperate for someone, anyone, to step in. Mom? Dad? My aunt opened her mouth, but my uncle put a hand on her arm. He wasn't stupid. He knew pushing me further would only make things worse. Emily turned back to me, her voice breaking. Jake, please. Save it. I cut her off. I've spent my whole life listening to you talk down to me. I'm done listening. The security guard took her arm, not roughly, but firmly. Let's go. Emily let out a choked sound, half outrage, half despair. You can't do this. This is my birthday. I smirked. And this is my hotel. With that, the guard led her toward the exit. She fought every step, turning back one last time. You'll regret this, Jake. I swear, you'll regret this. I just smiled. Goodbye, Emily. The door slammed shut behind her, and a wave of quiet settled over the room. It was a strange kind of silence, one of disbelief, but also one of relief. For the first time in years, I didn't feel like the family's punching bag. As the minutes ticked by, people began murmuring amongst themselves, but no one knew quite what to say. Some of the guests looked uncomfortable, unsure whether to leave or stay, given the abrupt disruption. A few had been friendly with Emily and seemed genuinely shocked by what had just happened, while others seemed to get the sense that things had shifted permanently. But then, one by one, Emily's friends started filtering out of the hotel, no doubt following her lead. They were quick to gather their things and murmur amongst themselves, throwing accusatory glances my way as they filed out. I wasn't surprised. Emily had a way of rallying people to her side, even when she was in the wrong. Once the last of her entourage left, I let out a breath I didn't realize I'd been holding. Aunt Marie, who had been standing in the corner the whole time, finally spoke up, her voice quiet but filled with an edge of concern. Jake, are you sure about this? Emily, she's your cousin. It's going to tear the family apart. I gave her a look, a mix of exasperation and calm. She's the one who tore it apart, Aunt Marie. Not me. She opened her mouth as if to argue, but then she closed it, realizing there was no changing my mind. I'm not sure I've ever seen you this, she trailed off, not knowing exactly how to finish the sentence. Angry? I asked, leaning back against the bar. Yeah, well, there's a first time for everything. Marie nodded slowly, clearly still processing the chaos. Just be careful, okay? Don't worry, Aunt Marie. I'm done being the nice guy. And that was the truth of it. Emily had pushed me to my breaking point, and I wasn't about to back down now. That night, I went back to my office at the hotel to catch up on some emails and clear my head. I figured that would be the end of it. That Emily would sulk, maybe complain to a few people, but that would be the extent of her revenge. But I couldn't have been more wrong. It was around midnight when I heard the buzz of my phone vibrating on my desk. At first, I thought it was just another email, but when I looked, I saw a flood of notifications from Instagram and Twitter. Confused, I tapped the screen to see what was going on. It didn't take long to figure it out. Emily had posted a series of rants, both on her Instagram story and Twitter, that painted me as the villain of the night. She'd made sure to include a lot of dramatic photos, like her standing by the exit with her arms crossed, and a shot of her with tear-streaked makeup. She'd captioned it, Jake kicked me out of my own birthday party at his hotel because I called him a loser in front of all my friends. Can you believe this? Family, huh? Laughing emoji. I scrolled through the messages and saw a pattern. Her friends were rallying behind her, leaving comments like, so petty. Jake's a joke, and he's clearly jealous you're successful. That's so messed up. Some of them even tagged the hotel's account, demanding that I be fired for ruining the event. My heart sank a little. Seeing the anger and support from people who had no idea of the full story stung. Emily was a master at manipulation. She'd been playing the victim for years, and now, she was spinning this into some twisted narrative where she was the wrong party. I didn't reply immediately. Instead, I took a deep breath and shut my phone down for a while, needing some space. It wasn't like I hadn't seen this coming. Emily had always had a knack for turning situations around to her advantage. But this felt like a whole new level of betrayal. Still, I wasn't worried. I knew the truth. And I also knew something Emily didn't. This wasn't over. The next day, things got worse. I went to check my social media, figuring the whole thing would blow over by then, but it had only escalated. Emily's posts had gone viral among her friend group, and now, people from the extended family, who hadn't even been at the party, were chiming in, accusing me of ruining family traditions, of humiliating my own cousin for no reason. Some of them sent me private messages, most of them in a more judgmental tone than I expected. One message from Aunt Linda read, Jake, I can't believe you would stoop so low. Emily is family, And no matter how much she gets on your nerves, you don't treat family like that. I'm so disappointed in you. Everyone's talking about it. You need to fix this. I stared at the message for a long moment, the anger rising again. How had it come to this? How had I become the villain in all of this? Emily had humiliated me for years. It wasn't just the party. It was everything that had come before. The way she'd belittled me, the way she'd ignored my accomplishments, and the way she'd treated my efforts like they were nothing. But in this moment, I knew the only way to put an end to it was to expose her. That night, I posted something of my own. I took screenshots of Emily's posts and put together a message. To everyone who thinks they know what happened last night, here's the truth. Emily has spent years making me the scapegoat for everything that went wrong in her life. She's publicly humiliated me for fun, and when I finally stood up for myself, this is the result. I'm not sorry for what happened. I've spent too long being the quiet one, the one who always takes the back seat in the family. It's time for that to stop. If you don't like it, well, tough luck. I'm done being her punching bag. I posted it and sat back, waiting. I didn't have to wait long for the storm to hit. At first, it was just a trickle, small comments here and there, some likes, some shares. Then the real waves began. Emily's side of the family and friends flooded my notifications, some agreeing with me, but most calling me every name under the sun. My phone buzzed incessantly as more and more people from the family piled on. I could see it now, the full scope of what was happening. Emily had spun her narrative so well that even my own relatives, some who I had considered close, were on her side. One message from my Uncle Roger hit particularly hard. I can't believe you would air our dirty laundry like this. Emily's just trying to make sense of everything, and you're out here trying to ruin her reputation. She's family, Jake, and family supports each other. You're a disgrace. That one stung. I had always looked up to Uncle Roger. To hear him turn on me like this, without even trying to understand my side, left a sour taste in my mouth. It felt like no matter how hard I tried to make things right, it wasn't going to matter. But as the night wore on, I kept seeing something interesting. As I scrolled through the comments, I started noticing that Emily's story didn't quite hold up for everyone. Some people were asking questions. Why didn't Emily apologize if she was in the wrong? One comment asked. Another said, why does Emily always play the victim in every situation? Does she really think we don't see through it? Those comments were like a small crack in the dam. People were starting to see her for what she really was, someone who could manipulate a situation to her benefit without any regard for who she stepped on. Then came the first big shift. My cousin Megan, who had been Emily's best friend since childhood, publicly commented on my post. I held my breath, wondering what she'd say. Megan had always been a little more level-headed than the rest of them. Her comment was simple, but it hit like a ton of bricks. Jake didn't deserve what happened. I don't care what anyone says. I've seen this happen too many times. Emily has always been like this, and it's time people knew. It was like a spark had lit a fire. Megan's post started getting shared, and soon, more and more family members and friends began posting their own stories. Some people shared how Emily had manipulated them in the past, how she'd stolen attention from other people's milestones, how she put others down to make herself look better. At that point, I knew there was no going back for Emily. The truth was out. The next day, the fallout continued. My phone had been blowing up nonstop, but this time, it wasn't just angry messages. Some of my friends had seen the posts and shared them with me, sending screenshots of how Emily's reputation was quickly crumbling. This is some drama I can't miss, one text read from my college buddy Mark. You're trending, man. My heart pounded as I watched the narrative shift. The more Emily tried to control the story, the more her lies unraveled. People started questioning her, and in doing so, they realized that they had been manipulated all along. The turning point came when Emily's own mother, Aunt Linda, sent me a message. She'd been one of the biggest supporters of Emily's side throughout this, but now she was apologizing. Jake, I'm so sorry. I didn't see what was happening until I saw everything unfold. I didn't want to believe it, but you're right. Emily has a habit of turning everything on others. I was wrong to defend her without knowing the whole story. Please, can we talk? I stared at the message, my mind racing. For the first time in years, Aunt Linda was admitting that Emily had manipulated her, too. That was a huge step, but I wasn't ready to talk to her just yet. Not after everything that had happened. I'd spent so long watching Emily walk all over me, while the rest of the family either ignored it or stood by. I wasn't going to let them off that easy. The days that followed were a whirlwind. The fallout from the party and my post continued to ripple through our family. Emily tried to backtrack, claiming I was attacking her and ruining her life with lies, but by now, her own posts were turning against her. The pictures she'd shared of herself looking like the victim no longer had the effect she wanted. Instead, people were commenting on her constant need for attention, her refusal to take accountability, and her inability to respect boundaries. Finally, Emily called me. It was late in the evening, and I had been sitting at my desk, scrolling through all the messages, trying to process everything. I wasn't sure what I was expecting when I picked up, but it wasn't the desperate, shaky voice of my cousin on the other end. "Jake," she began, and I could hear the exhaustion in her voice. "I didn't mean for all this to happen. Please, just let me fix this. I'll do anything." I leaned back in my chair, my fingers gripping the armrest as I fought to keep my composure. "Fix it? After everything you've done? After what you put me through?" She stammered, her voice cracking. "I'm sorry, okay? I didn't think it would go this far. I was just mad, and I didn't know what else to do. Please don't do this. Don't ruin my life." I paused. I could feel a wave of emotion rising in my chest, but I forced myself to stay calm. "You've been ruining my life for years, Emily. You've treated me like dirt for far too long. Maybe if you'd stopped for a second and actually listened to me, this wouldn't have happened." She was silent for a long time, and when she spoke again, it wasn't with the same confidence she'd had before. I just wanted everyone to see me the way I saw myself. I didn't want to be the only one left behind. I don't know how to fix this." The silence hung in the air, and I knew in that moment that Emily would never truly understand the depth of what she'd done. I exhaled slowly, trying to steady myself. "I don't want to talk to you right now. I need time. And maybe, just maybe, you'll realize that you can't keep acting like this and getting away with it." I hung up the phone, and in that moment, I finally felt the weight of everything lift just a little bit. The next few weeks were filled with awkward family gatherings and tense conversations. But the one thing that was clear was that Emily's grip on the family was weakening. More and more people began to see her for who she really was, and it wasn't pretty. It wasn't just a victory for me, it was a victory for everyone who had been too afraid to speak up. And while I wasn't sure what the future held for me and Emily, I knew one thing for certain: I wouldn't be letting her back into my life until she could truly change. For now, I was going to savor the silence, the quiet that had come after the storm. Because in the end, it wasn't about winning. It was about finally standing up for myself, for the first time in a long time. And that was enough.